The next 24 minutes will be spent exploring a subject which is very dear to my heart: presenting. There are many different types of presentations, of communications in front of other people. We can introduce ourselves at the boardroom around the big table. Terrible, everybody hates doing that. We can have fireside chats, or panels, or we can give TEDx's, or we can give keynotes on big stages like this. Presentations, like taxes and death, are just a part of life. And in the next 24 minutes, we're going to explore them, and I will give you all 9 principles to help you give better presentations and lead a happier life. I will share 11 protocols that you can use to use in case of an emergency. You know those moments where you realize, I've got a presentation tomorrow and I have no idea where to start. And I have one big thing for you, one idea, one tool that you can all use to help you give a stellar presentation at work, in your organizations, and here at the Republica. But before we begin, I'd like us to examine the scale of the problem. I'd like us to think about how many PowerPoint presentations are given every single day. Now, according to Forbes, very dubious article, there are 35 million PowerPoint presentations given every single day to 500 million people. To put that into some kind of context, that's America sitting down together with Mexico, imagine that, and presenting to everybody who lives in Peru and Sindelfingen. But we're Germans, this big number here, these scare us. They're not conservative enough, they're too big, they blow our little German minds. So I've come up with some made-up performance artists maths for you. Now, I found this little nugget of information. According to the German Institute of Business, there are 15 million white-collar workers in Germany. So I think it's pretty much safe to say that if anybody's going to give a PowerPoint presentation, it's going to be a white-collar worker. So what I've done is I've split them into 3 groups because I'm a performance artist by heart and not a business person per se. And I've said, okay, well, the first third, the first 5 million, they don't present at all. The second third only present once a month. And the third third, they present every single day. Working day. And because I live in Munich, that's working Bavarian days. So it's only 152 working days. Each of these presentations lasts for 1 hour, and there are only 3 people in the room. So that means this lot, 0. This lot, 60 million presentations, and the other lot, where they do 760 million, that's 820 1-hour presentations in Germany a year. Sounds a lot. It's actually quite conservative, because we're in Germany, we like those kinds of numbers. But how much does that cost, I ask myself? Because we're in Germany, we like to think about those KPIs and the cost of things. Well, I don't know how much you earn. So the only number that I can guarantee, hopefully, is the minimum wage in Germany. So let's time the 820 million PowerPoint presentations we're going to give a year by this, by it costs 42 billion euros, and that's a conservative number. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So it has a financial impact, okay. But it also has an emotional impact, on the people giving them, and most of the time on the people who are forced to watch them. We are born with two kinds of fears. The fear of falling and loud sounds. Everything else we learn to be afraid of. Everything. We learn to be afraid of spiders, of heights, of each other. There are three reactions to fear. We run away, flight, we freeze, or we fight. And my favorite presentation, my favorite keynote of all time is a fighty presentation. It was given by Monica Lewinsky at TED. The talk was called The Price of Shame. It's a talk full of dignity, of poise, of strength. A woman regaining control of her narrative, of her life. In the book, TED Talks, written by head of TED, Chris Anderson, Chris talks about the process of creating that talk and how nervous, how afraid Monica was to give that important talk. And to calm herself and to give her focus, to give her something to hold on amongst all of that fear, she wrote a simple sentence on top of her script. Now, she's not alone in America about being afraid of presentations. 75% of Americans fear public speaking. 41% of Germans have much more confidence when it comes to public speaking. Who'd have thought it? Well, they're afraid of public speaking too. Now, fear and public speaking and anxiety is something which I've spent a lot of time examining because of my own experiences over the last 32 years. And I recently discovered this thing here, the mental health continuum model. Our mental health is in flux. It moves from crisis to excelling. Sometimes we spend huge amounts of time in the red bit. More often than not, we manage sometimes to get to thriving. If you look very, very closely at unsettled, you'll notice that it pretty much describes how you feel when you've been asked to give a presentation. What it feels like to write a presentation, become nervous and edgy and irritable and frustrated. Now, if we take those 820 million PowerPoint presentations that we were just talking about, and the 10 million people giving them, that means 4.7 of those Germans were anxious giving that presentation. When I ask people what they want to change, what they want to improve about presenting, the number one answer is to be less nervous. There are other things as well, like posture and what to do with my hands. But it's the nervousness, the frustration, the irritability that they like to change more than anything else. And what I've spotted is that this nervousness quickly merges in to anger. We get angry when we're asked to give a presentation, mostly by our bosses, mostly the night before we're supposed to give it. It's stuff we do on top of the stuff we should be doing. Nobody's ever taught us how to do it, so we've copied it from somebody else. That doesn't work. We become fractious, angry, and irritable. Now, I've met some really angry people in my time, and I've noticed that younger people tend to be the most angry when it comes to presenting. And I'd like to introduce you today to the most angriest, nastiest person I have ever met. A 23-year-old man, arrogant, clever, entitled, into new technology, absolutely beratungsresistent. And here he is. He crossed my path in 1993 when the two of us came here to Germany. 1 year later, he looked like this. This is what 1 year in Germany does to a person. Tidies you up, sorts you out. He started presenting. 9 years later, he looked like this. 9 years of presenting, and life, and being a parent, running a business, losing the business, being employed. That's what it's like when you turn 40. At the age of 51, he came to the Republica for the 7th time, the Republica in Berlin, to give a performance. This was the most angriest Marcus John Henry Brown the world had ever seen. He was furious, so angry with the Republica, so angry with the stage management, furious with the audience that they didn't understand his genius and what he was trying to achieve. Entitled, nasty, so angry, so very angry. 4 days later, this man ended up being rushed to hospital, to the chest pain clinic in Munich. They thought he was having a heart attack. What he was really having was a case of serious indigestion. This was the photograph I sent my wife the morning after I didn't die, to tell her, you can pick me up in 20 minutes. And in those 20 minutes, I changed my entire life. I decided there and then that I would never, ever do performance art stuff again. That I needed to change my life. That this sense of entitlement, that this anger, that the frustration that I was feeling while I was doing these things was killing me. So I needed a new way. So I had a big, long think about what it was I was doing. Picked everything apart, reviewed it all. I wanted to get a grasp on my anger. So I started reading philosophy, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, the Stoics. I was working with other people, teaching them how to do the thing I'm doing right now. And during that time, with this work, I discovered and developed a set of simple principles that I would love to share with you now. These principles changed my life, changed my presentations, and have changed the presentations of hundreds of people. The first one is to be audience obsessed. It's very easy to fall into a trap when someone puts one of these in your hands, that you're a very important person. You're not. It's not about you, not about me. It's all about you. A great speaker doesn't see themselves. They think about the audience. They're absolutely obsessed about how and what they can do for them. You just need to ask yourselves these questions and your presentations will immediately improve. You have to ask yourself, who's there? Who's in the audience? Why are they there? Sometimes they don't want to be there. Their boss has sent them in there to take notes and come back and tell them what happened. They all have a problem they want to have solved. You need to know what they need to hear. Anybody with small children knows it's very, very simple to tell those kids that, yes, you can have an ice cream before you go to bed, because that's what they want to hear. But to tell them that they have to brush their teeth and be in bed by 7:30, That's a little bit more difficult. And we all need to think about what you tell the audience, what you want them to do. Audience obsession. Your presentations need to have a purpose. It's really easy to spot when a presentation is purposeless because the person who's giving it doesn't know how to end it because it doesn't have an end. It has no purpose. And all those things that you would like to fix, those communication skills that you love watching on TikTok and YouTube about how to stand, what to do with your hands, when to lean forward, when to lean back, to smile, to come on stage and count to 3. Well, that's just putting lipstick on the pig of a much bigger problem, that most presentations fail because they simply don't have a purpose. They don't know why they get up in the morning. And the easiest way of finding out the purpose of your presentation is to ask yourself a simple question. What's the point? I've watched quite a few presentations, and I'm here at the Republica, and I was left thinking, what's the point? That's not a good place for an audience to be. So you have to think about these things. And maybe I thought it would help if we thought a little bit about what a presentation actually is. There is no great definition of a presentation. There's no guidance. There's no way to find out until now. This is my definition of a presentation. The point of a presentation is to collect answers to questions the audience didn't know needed asking, and these answers lead to a solution that the audience didn't know was needed but is. And when you have that, you have to do the work. I hear a lot about the imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome and speaking, they kind of live in the same space. If you don't do the work, if you don't do the prep, if you don't practice the stuff, you don't know what you're talking about, and you step up on stage and pretend to talk about those things, of course you feel like an imposter because you are one. This is what I call speaker syndrome. If you don't do the work and you come to the stage, you feel like an imposter because you are one. You have to do the work. You can't just wing it. You have to do the research. The research looks like this. Of all the things I've developed since that heartburn incident, it's the canvas. A simple tool to structure your thinking, and if it stays empty, you haven't done the work. If you get stuck, if you get caught out, you can use these 11 protocols. It's free. It's on the Speakery website. Use it, steal it, give it to your friends. I don't care. But start to learn how to do the work. The tips you would like to hear for the Republica when you write your call for paper and they say yes. This is what you should be doing, regardless of what stage you get right for stage 1. Germans love a script. When they give a presentation, they write a Word doc, they copy and paste it and put it in the speaker notes. They can't remember it because they've written it for Grammarly. They haven't written it for their mouth. Write speaky scripts. And once you've learned that script, fuck the script. Forget it. You're going to forget it anyway. Never look at the big... Oh, look at that. Practice, practice. Practice, practice, and practice smart. In smaller chunks, not big chunks in your calendar. If you put a bet, there's at least one person in this audience who's put a practice slot in their calendar, and the moment the boss calls to say, have you got 5 minutes for a coffee chat, that block gets deleted. Practice smart, small and often. Smile more. Bob Ross is the greatest philosopher of the 20th century. I ask a lot of people to rate their skills. And you can do this after this talk. It's a simple exercise, quality of story, audience obsession. When I ask people to do this, I get this kind of results. The women in the room tend to put themselves in the middle. Guess who are the two men on this chart? Women come to me because they want to learn how to get better. Men come to me to prove that they can already do it. This is where I would put myself. I think I'm pretty good, but no, because I'm all the way down here. It's a continuous process. It never stops. Each of these Marcus John Henry Browns was okay at presenting. Is that one better than this one? Yes, of course he is. But he didn't realize that he needed to put in the reps. You need to do the reps. Presenting is like a muscle. You need to tear it. You tear your presentation muscle by making mistakes. We could have reduced all of this within years instead of 32 if I'd have just committed to practicing. And we must tell simple stories with simple words. We have so much bubble speak. There's so much bubble speak here at the Republica. Complicated words, complicated ideas that work really brilliantly for a Republica audience. But if you took them to Niederroden, Sindelfingen, oder Taufkirchen in Oberbayern, nobody would understand the word. It's the same for advertising, same for marketing, same for sales, same for we speak bubble speak. And artists are the worst. This was from the presentation that put me in a hospital. It was 60 minutes of not saying what I wanted to say because I was too afraid to say it and I didn't know how. What I was trying to say is that this Marcus John Henry Brown got into a car, disappeared for 24 hours, tried to hang himself from a tree with a laptop cable because he wanted to avoid and couldn't face giving a presentation. We need to tell clearer stories, not clever stories. It's our job when we're standing up here to translate the complexity of our ideas into simple things that people understand and can use. We can map our stories on the Kurt Vonnegut shape of stories. We can draw out Cinderellas. We can draw out Ken, terrible shape for a man. The shape of a startup, unangenehm. The shape of an activist or a dystopianist or of a grumpy cat. When I said smile more, I meant this. This is the shape of a story that will grab an audience, take them somewhere important, and then send them out the other side with a sense of hope. It has a start, it has a middle, and it has an end. The thing that really put me in the hospital was that I was focused on winning. I wanted to win. I wanted the big bucks. I wanted to earn the big bucks on the big stages and get lots of press and be famous and bullshit. We have to focus on helping. If we focus on these kinds of things here, on the toxic winning stuff, if we aim for these things, the big thing at the moment in corporate Germany is Visibilität. If we aim for this kind of stuff, we can only fail. But if we focus on helping, on offering ideas and solutions, of giving the audience tools to make the world a better place, to change their lives, then we're helping. And we can achieve those things with work and with practice. And the great thing is that if you do it like this, you achieve some of the winning things too. And there's a lot of talk about authenticity. But I prefer a more Socratic approach. I'd like us to own ourselves. If we do all of the work, all of the practice, all of the writing, all of the research, all of those things, then we find ourselves, because we've stripped away all of the insecurities, the things we can't control. You can control what you do. You can control what you say. You just need to prepare it properly. I didn't set out to become happy. That wasn't the idea. I didn't lay there in the hospital bed thinking, I need to get happier. I just realized I needed to change. I needed to find a better way. When Marcus Aurelius talks about the obstacle being the way, the obstacle he was talking about was people. The person who was in my way was Marcus John Henry Brown. And by reading philosophy, by working with people, by listening to their problems and the things that they wanted to achieve, I achieved a completely different state of happiness, which is much closer to fulfillment than anything else I've ever felt in my life. I'm not dopamine happy, I'm Aristotle happy. Now, I promised you one big thing that would change your presentations as well as your lives forever. At the top of Monica Lewinsky's script, the thing she wrote to prove to herself that she knew where to go was, this is important. And this is the tool you can always use. This is important is the question you should always ask yourselves when you open up the laptop, when you fire up PowerPoint. Look at it and say, is this important? And if it's a yes, then ask yourself why and tell the audience. And if it's not, what the fuck? Start again until you work it out. The thing is, this is important. There are 687 seats in this room. You have all given me 30 minutes of your life. You have all quite literally died a little in this room. That's time you're never getting back. That's why this is important. That's why we need to make it count. This was the thing that started it all in the hospital. That my last presentation could have been my last. That my next could be my last. That's why we need to make it count. And to close, this is what it's about. Every single presentation you give is always about the future. XYZ is important because we have to learn how to talk to each other, generation to generation. We have to learn to tell ourselves simple stories, and we need to learn to listen. I've been coming here often. This is my 8th Republica stage. This is also my last Republica stage. I haven't got anything more that I can say to Republica. This is the best and most important thing I have ever said. The last thing that I will pass on to you now is to take the principles, use these skills. Just because I'm not up here anymore doesn't mean I'm not here anymore. From now on, I will be helping the team at Republica support all of the speakers who take to these stages. This video is the onboarding video for all Republica speakers to come. I hope you enjoyed this. Be happy. Goodbye.